Dongyang University presents Drama English by Professor Dupree. Good evening, students. I hope that you are doing great and that you had a stunning day and that you are ready for tonight's lecture. Tonight we will be starting a new section where we are going to focus on how to write a good animation synopsis. I'll be going through 3 pertinent stages with all the subsections that will be very helpful to you to be able to write a fully fledged out animation synopsis by the end of the course. Then we will be going through another nice animation. This time we will be looking at Ratatouille, and like usual, I'll go through a very short introduction of the animation. I will introduce the cast. This time I will not give you the plot and the synopsis because that is what you are going to give to me. So I also went through various vocabulary that's been used in the animation and gave you definitions. I hope it helps you a lot. So, without any further ado, let's start with our animation, synopsis, introduction and framework. See you inside the lesson. How to write a compelling animation synopsis. This lecture will cover what is a synopsis, expose you to a solid animation synopsis example, and how to write a synopsis following an animation synopsis template. The best way to learn how to write a synopsis is to write a synopsis. After you complete the lecture, you'll come into writing your own synopsis with practical experience and open eyes. As a result, the process won't be unfamiliar and your work will be stronger. What is a synopsis? A synopsis is a brief summary of an animation that describes the plot in broad strokes, the world in which the animation is set, introduce the main character or characters, and what the characters do to get what they want, who or what stands in their way, and how it unfolds and mentions the content of the animation from beginning to end. It covers the main conflict and the resolution in the animation while describing the emotional development of the main character. How long is a synopsis? If it's too short, your animation synopsis is really a long line. If it's too long, it goes into outline or treatment territory. In exploring how to write a synopsis, keep in mind that the key here is the compact use of language. Let every word you use count. By all means, don't make spaghetti sentences that stretch over multiple lines but does not really contribute to your synopsis. It's like saying a lot yet saying nothing. Rather focus on clarity and avoid wordiness. Remember, less is more. While there is no universal standard for the length of an animation synopsis, so here are some tips on what to avoid when writing a synopsis. Don't mention too many characters or events. You should only focus on the most important characters or events in the animation to avoid any distraction of the main plot or story. We don't need the backstory on the waitress at the bar where the two main characters talk. A brief synopsis means you have to let go of these unnecessary elements. Don't use too much detail about plot twists and turns. You don't want to tell the entire story. What you want to do is write an animation summary with enough detail about the plot to intrigue the reader. Unnecessary detail, description, or explanation. Get to the point quickly and clearly so that each word in the synopsis counts. Don't rush to the end. A brief synopsis should be your goal while making known the journey through the animation from beginning to end. The short answer to the question is, when you write a synopsis, you should stay to 1 page or less, with a word count between 500 to 700 words, not a word longer. Anything longer than that, and it defeats the point of writing a synopsis. Next, we will look at how to write a synopsis. This may seem a bit dumb to bring up, but only start the synopsis after you have watched the animation. This will help you identify the main characters, plot points, conflict, and ending much easier. After reading your synopsis, the reader, that is me, must have a clear understanding of what is going on in the animation and not wonder, what have you been looking at? Luckily for you, Friedman gives some of the best tips for formatting the synopsis in 3 easy steps. She recommends beginning by creating a short but strong overview paragraph of the animation by identifying the protagonist, problem or conflict, and setting. Next paragraph should convey the outline of the animation with enough detail, which includes the major plot turns or conflicts necessary and any characters that should be mentioned in order for the animation series to make sense to whomever reads it. Lastly, she recommends indicating how major conflicts are resolved in the last paragraph. This ensures a clean, clear presentation of your animation that does not leave the reader confused. Tip: write your synopsis from the third person point of view to maintain professionalism and narrative distance. I and you should never be used. Rather use he, his, she, her, they, or them or there. Step 1. Write a short overview. The first paragraph should introduce all of the main characters while giving a general summary of the entire plot. As you introduce other characters, you should introduce them in relation to the main character. Write one sentence for each of the following points to help you. There are some structured questions to guide you answer the mentioned points. 1. Make a list of the main characters in the animation. This may include the protagonist, a love interest, a villain, or a sidekick. Only the most important characters should be mentioned in a synopsis. Introduce the main characters, especially the hero in the animation, the protagonist, that is the champion or lead character, and the antagonist, that is the character who opposes everything the protagonist does or believes in. Keep in mind, each character should impact the story in a significant way. Who are the protagonist and antagonist in the animation? Make sure you introduce each character with something unique about them, whether it's a physical feature or another idiosyncrasy. The reader should know exactly who each character is, what they want, and why they want it. How does the protagonist get involved in the animation? What sparks off the involvement? What conflict or mystery arises to move the animation forward? What has happened to start the animation? The world or setting, where and when is the animation taking place? Here both the place and time are important, as both factors indicate the scene in which the animation is taking place. It's okay if the animation is a bit vague or the information is a bit vague, but be as specific as possible. The top thing that makes the animation interesting is basically what are they doing because of the inciting moment. The inciting moment is the action mentioned in point 3. After you answered all the questions, you should combine the information into your first paragraph of about 50 words in length. Do not just answer the questions in haphazard sentences and leave it up to the reader to compose into a neat paragraph, because this reader does not want to guess. Step 2. Sketch major plot points. Sketch out the major plot points in the animation with enough detail. Not too much, nor too little detail. The synopsis will cover the main storyline of the animation. The storyline usually does not include sub-stories, unless the sub-story is important to the overall conclusion of the main story. try to capture the main conflict of the animation through the following questions. What is the protagonist planning to do? What is the antagonist planning to do? Then continue to explain the rising action or the major plot turning points that happens to the hero. Include any obstacles that the character faces and describe how they overcome these obstacles. Avoid subplots and any backstories in your synopsis unless they are crucial to the understanding the main plot. Don't go into too much detail about subplots and minor actions. You don't want your synopsis to be confusing, so focus on the main storyline. For example, you might write, after James beats the river monster, he continues on to find the magic crystal. When he locates the cave, he finds it blocked and agrees to trade his sword to a goblin in exchange for help. Keep in mind to pick only the big ones. Limit yourself to 5 major plots in the animation. You'll have to loop through points 3 to 7 for each plot point. You may rightly ask, what are the 5 major plot points in an animation that are being referred to? This will be covered on the next slide. Question 3. How are they going to do it? Where are they going to do it? When are they going to do it? Why are they going to do it? It is a good idea to mention the villain. Who is the villain? And the most important secondary character, who is the sidekick or love interest, but only include characters if they can't be omitted. Only do the villain and sidekick related to the protagonist. Do not introduce every single character in the animation. Only the ones that contribute to the main line of the animation, the main story. The 5 plotting moments. A good animation story opens with the protagonist whose life has been turned upside down in a negative way by an antagonist. This is known as the inciting moment. This causes problems for the protagonist. The protagonist has to reach to his challenge and solve the problem. The problem is not solved and becomes more complicated. The main character tries again. This attempt also fails and the problem worsens. This leads a dark night of the soul, where it seems as if the antagonist will win. The protagonist tries again and solves the problem. The story ends. Remember that plots are made up of beginnings, middles, and endings. Point 1 is found in the beginning. Points 2 to 4 are found in the middle. Point 5 is found in the end. Here we can see the 5 plot moments that matter. 1. Inciting moment. 2. Opening problem. Attempt to solution. 3. Some complication. Another attempt to a solution. Another complication. An attempt to a solution. And a climax where the hero overcomes the problem and the animation draws to an ending. Now we return back to our 3 steps on writing a synopsis. Step 3. Conflict resolution. This step describes how the animation's major conflicts are resolved and the ending gets revealed. It is important that to go back to the inciting moment, looking at how was the inciting moment resolved in the end. Do not leave the ending a mystery. This gets basically addressed with the question, how does the story end? The goal here isn't to flesh out the trailer, so don't keep any secrets when writing your animation synopsis. Next, to round the synopsis out a bit more, one can add more information. You can do this by touching on the following questions where it may be applicable. What makes the animation interesting? Highlighting what is unique in the animation. Using this angle to make your synopsis different or interesting. Reasons why you would recommend the animation to anyone else to watch. Why will one care about the protagonist? What feeling of sympathy or empathy can you create by the reader regarding the protagonist? What is the moral grey area in the animation? At times, animators are trying to bring across that the world we live in is not just black or white, but address how one might react in certain moral settings that are grey. What's at stake for the protagonist? What does the protagonist stand to lose if he or she does not resolve the conflict? Is the gain worth the effort? After you have answered all these questions and write nice paragraphs, are you now done with your synopsis? Not by a long shot. Now is a good time to proofread your synopsis. Carefully read through your work to eliminate any mistakes. For example, typos, misspellings, grammatical mistakes, missing words, or generated translator garbage. Okay, I call it translator generated garbage because that's exactly what I get for assignments where students just type into their translator, it spits something out, they copy it and paste it into their assignment and submit it without thinking about what they are actually submitting. It is very clear when a translator has been used, and Susie uses all male pronouns and Johnny uses all female pronouns, or I'm even included in the animation. It's a mess. Read over translated work. Fix the minor grammatical errors that are introduced. A translator is great to bring over the general gist of what you are trying to say, but we are trying to throw the crutches away. Let's continue. Edit for consensus as well. That means try to remove any unnecessary wordy phrases or cliches. Remove spaghetti sentences or phrases with idiomatic expressions or a better word that describes that whole scene that you've been putting together with long-winded sentences that do not contribute to the actual storyline information transfer. Try reading your entire synopsis out loud to catch any mistakes. As you read it out loud to yourself and you hear and think about what you are reading, surely you can catch and correct most of your own mistakes. Now that your synopsis is well edited and reviewed, it is ready for submission. Let's look at a synopsis of Mulan that we watched and analyzed by introduction of the main characters, providing a good summary of the animation and stating the reasons why it is recommendable. Sit back and listen and watch to the synopsis of Mulan.
The Huns, who are led by the ruthless Shan Yu, invade Han China by breaching the Great Wall. The Chinese emperor orders a general mobilization with conscription notices requiring one man from each family to join the Chinese army. When Mulan hears that her elderly father, the only man in their family and an army veteran, is going to war once more, she becomes anxious and apprehensive due to his weakening health. Taking her father's old armor and cutting her long hair, she disguises herself as a man so that she can enlist instead of her father. The family quickly learns of her departure, and Mulan's grandmother prays to the family ancestors for Mulan's safety. The ancestors order their great stone dragon to protect Mulan. They send the small dragon Mushu, a disgraced former guardian, to awaken the stone dragon, but he accidentally destroys it in the process. Mushu conceals this from the ancestors and resolves to protect Mulan himself. Reporting to the training camp, Mulan is able to pass as a man, although her military skills are initially lacking. Mushu provides clumsy guidance to Mulan on how to behave like a man based on his poor judgment and stereotypical views. Under the command of Captain Li Shang, she and her fellow recruits gradually become trained warriors. Desiring to see Mulan succeed, Mushu creates a fake order from Shang's father, ordering Shang to follow the main imperial army into the mountains. The reinforcements set out, but arrive at a burnt-out encampment and discover that General Li and his troops have been massacred by the Huns. As the reinforcements solemnly leave the mountains, they are ambushed by the Huns, but Mulan cleverly uses a cannon to cause an avalanche, which buries most of the invaders. Shan Yu, enraged, slashes her in the chest, and her deception of being a man is revealed when the wound is bandaged. Instead of executing Mulan, as the law requires, Shang spares her life, but nonetheless expels her from the army. Mulan is left to follow alone as the recruits depart for the imperial city to report the news of the Huns' destruction. However, it is discovered that several Han warriors, including Shan Yu, have survived the avalanche, and Mulan catches sight of them as they make their way to the city, intent on capturing the emperor. At the imperial city, Mulan tries convincing Shang about Shan Yu's survival to no avail. The Huns capture the emperor and seize the palace. Mulan and 3 of her warrior friends are able to sneak into the palace. With the help of Shang, they defeat Shan Yu's men. As Shang prevents Shan Yu from assassinating the emperor, Mulan lures the Han leader onto the roof, where she engages him in single combat. Meanwhile, acting on Mulan's instructions and signal, Mushu fires a large skyrocket at Shan Yu. The rocket strikes and propels him into a fireworks launching tower, where he dies in the resulting explosion. Mulan is initially reprimanded by the emperor for having destroyed the palace and shamed the army and her family, but is unexpectedly praised by himself and the assembled inhabitants of the city for having saved them, who bow to her in an unprecedented honor. While she accepts the crest of the emperor and the sword of Shan Yu as gifts, she politely declines his offer to be his advisor and asks to return to her family. Mulan returns home and presents these gifts to her father, who is overjoyed to have Mulan back safely. Having become enamored with Mulan, Shang soon arrives under the pretext of returning her helmet, but accepts the family's invitation to stay for dinner. Mushu is reinstated as a family guardian by the ancestors amid a returning celebration.
Now you know how to write a compelling animation synopsis. You will be able to give a brief summary of the characters who drive the animation story, especially the protagonist and antagonist, and the events that occur in the animation story. I hope that you had a good time learning how to write a good synopsis. And remember, do follow the steps. It will make your life easier. It will give structure to your submissions. And remember that paragraphs are very nice. Like a sentence is one idea. One paragraph is one idea that is taken a bit further, and then a new paragraph. Try to keep in the word constraints as mentioned in the lesson. Now, let's introduce the animation Ratatouille. Ratatouille is a 2007 American computer animated comedy, film produced by Pixar and released by Walt Disney Pictures. The title refers to the French dish ratatouille, which is served at the end of the film, and also refers to the animal type of the main character, a rat. A plot follows the rat named Remy, who dreams of becoming a chef and tries to achieve his goal by performing an alliance with a Persian restaurant's garbage boy. As you are going to write the plot, I'm not going to divulge any more, but let's look at the cast. We've got Alfredo Linguini as the garbage boy in the restaurant, Anton Ego, the food critic, Tato, the curvaceous female chef, Remy, the connoisseur chef rat, Horst, a chef, the figment of Remy's imagination, Auguste, Gusteau, Skinner, the sous chef, or the evil villain in the story, and Emily, Remy's brother. Those are the main characters. There are some more, but those are the ones that I feel are important. Now we will be focusing on the vocabulary that's being used in the animation. I selected some idiomatic phrases and words that I feel that can be useful to you in your careers. So do make notes, take notes. It's very important that you make it your own, okay? So word, write your definition, and then if need be, write the Korean word down so that when you look at the English word, you see the definition, you can see the meaning of the word in Korean as well. Let's continue with the vocabulary. Food critic. A food critic, also often called a food writer or a restaurant critic, is a professional writer who samples and reviews food. Food critics typically travel to different restaurants, order a variety of dishes, and write about their experiences. Newspapers, magazines, blogs, and websites may all hire food critics. Checker. A checker is someone who is appointed to make sure things are correct. In this case, food is being checked to ensure it is free from poison by the checker. Opposite points of view. This phrase implies that two parties have different opinions about a situation. Here we can see the proverbial half-full glass and the half-empty glass, depending on a person's point of view. Paws. Paws are the feet of four-legged animals. Here we can see a picture of a rat's two front paws, the two which Remy deems should be clean. You cannot walk on the ground and work with food. Ingredients. Ingredients are the substances that form part of a mixture. In a general sense, for example, in cooking, recipes specify which ingredients are used to prepare a specific dish. Many commercial products contain secret ingredients that are incorporated to make them better than competing products. Colony. 1. A colony can be a country or area under full or partial political control of another country, typically a distant one, and occupied by settlers from that country. A group of one nationality or ethnic group living in a foreign city or country. Or a group of living things of one kind living together. So a colony basically that's in the video is number 3. A group of rats living together is a colony of rats. Opinion. An opinion is a belief or judgment that falls short of absolute conviction, certainty, or positive knowledge. It is a conclusion that certain facts, ideas, are probably true or likely to prove so. Political opinions. An opinion about art. In my opinion, this is true. In my opinion, students should do their homework. Sign. An object, quality, or event whose presence or occurrence indicates the probable presence or occurrence of something else. Reputation. Reputation is the way you are viewed by people and by your community, and the way these people think of you. An example of reputation is the general belief that someone is a nice, honest, and hard-working person. A senator with a tarnished reputation, a restaurant with a good reputation. So in short, your reputation is what all the people around you think of you. Hanging by a thread. This means to be in a very dangerous situation or state. to be very close to death, failure. The patient's life was hanging by a thread. Here we can see a graphical depiction of hanging by a thread. It is said that this idiom got its meaning from a king who got tired of being buttered up by one of his subordinates. So he hanged a sword above his subordinate's seat with a single strand of hair. So the sword was hanging by a single thread of hair above his seat. So he was in a dangerous position. Nod. Nod is when you shake your head up and down as if you're indicating agreement. Up and down, like noddy. If you want to say yes without uttering a single word, all you have to do is nod up and down. If you know someone well enough to nod at them when you pass, but not well enough to stop and chat, you can call that person a nodding acquaintance. Gourmand kitchen. It is a state-of-the-art culinary setup that's equipped with a large range of special features, appliances, and accessories that make cooking gourmet, exotic, and specialty foods from scratch. What a stunning kitchen that must be. Jeopardize. It's basically to expose something or someone to danger or risk. A thoughtless decision could jeopardize her career. Toast. I bet you are thinking about dried bread. But did you know there's another toast? A toast is offered when people share a drink and raise their glasses to offer a salutation to the subject at hand, an event or a person. Ding or cling. Surplus of snobbery. Surplus is used to describe something that is extra or that is more than is needed. Snobbery is the behavior or attitude of people who think they are better than other people. So, a surplus of snobbery is when someone thinks they are a great deal better than all that surround him or her. Let you drown. This is sort of an idiomatic expression which means that someone should have left the other person to fail rather than helping them, because the saved person forgets you helped when success is in reach. Recipe. There are 3 components to a recipe. The first is the list of ingredients, and the second is the amount of the ingredients. The third is the preparation instructions. Even a recipe has instructions that needs to be followed. A well-written recipe will list all ingredients in the order they will be added in the preparation instructions. So there's a smooth flow in the recipe to make it more efficient. Fragile. The definition of fragile is someone or something delicate, flimsy, or easily broken. Life is fragile means that there are no certainties and that adverse events like illness, disaster, death can strike one at any time without warning. Will. A will is a document that indicates a transfer of ownership of belongings, usually after someone dies. So after the funeral, the family gets normally called together, and then the person's final will gets read, which can make for a happy family or family feuds for the future to be. Expectations. Your expectations are your strong hopes or beliefs that something will happen or that you will get something that you want. A person's expectations are strong beliefs they have about the proper way someone should behave or something should happen. A very good example of this is in this picture. Look very closely. In her profile on Match.cow, she said she was tall and lean. Is she tall and lean? No. The big trumpet or sax player had expectations created by a profile picture to see a lean, mean cow girlfriend, not a short, fat, plump one. So, in short, do not create unrealistic expectations in others. Perspective. Your perspective is the way you see something. If you think that toys corrupt children's minds, then from your perspective, a toy shop is an evil place. Perspective has a Latin root meaning, look through or perceive, and all the meanings of perspective have something to do with look. Here we can see many people looking at the same animal, but yet their perspectives are coming up with strange things. The one between the ears saying, it's a fan, because the elephant's ears are moving. The one who's feeling the elephant's body is saying, it's a wall, because it's sturdy and flat. The one who's at the tail is saying it's a rope. The one at the legs are saying it's a tree. The one at the trunk of the elephant is saying it's a snake. And the one pushing against the elephant's trunk is saying it's a spear. Are they all wrong? No. They just have a very limited perspective of what they are looking at. Now that we have covered how to write the synopsis, introduction to the animation, and the vocabulary and idiomatic phrases used in the animation, let's kick back and watch the animation. Also, keep in mind that you do have an assignment that you do have to submit every week, and it's very helpful to you if you submit it, because that is how I can see that you're participating in the class and try to gauge your understanding of the lecture material. So please do the assignment, and it's broken up into stages where I ask questions about the synopsis on vocabulary, and then comprehension questions about the animation to make 100% sure that you thoroughly enjoyed watching the animation. So please do submit your work on the dates indicated, and all the best for this week.